Hi, you have called Bart's Automotive Center. How can we help?
Hi, I want to book my car in for a service.
Of course. I'd be happy to help with that. May I have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Bartholomew.
Thank you, Bartholomew. What type of service or work does your...
I just need a regular service and probably a brake check as well.
Got it. A regular service and a brake check. When would be a convenient time for you to bring your car in?
Next Tuesday at 1 p.m.
We can definitely schedule you for Tuesday at 1 p.m. Your appointment is all set. We look forward to seeing you then, Bartholomew. If you have any other questions or need to make changes, feel free to let us know.
All right, see ya. Okay, guys, and that was an AI call with the OpenAI Realtime API. Let's get into the video. Hello, legends. In this video, we'll be building out an inbound AI voice agent using the new OpenAI Realtime API. So OpenAI recently introduced the Realtime API, and this is super valuable for speech-to-speech experiences. So as you saw on a phone call before, I was able to dial a number and I was able to speak with an AI assistant to book in a time for me to get a car service done. Now, even though a lot of people are saying that this pricing is actually pretty expensive for the voice-to-voice API, I think that this pricing is going to come down probably relatively soon. And when it does, the demo that you just saw, it was basically using Twilio to generate a phone number and then to make that connection with the Realtime API. And that's a direct competitor to tools like Vapi or Bland. It might not be as good as in the back end to kind of create those experiences, but as you can see, using OpenAI, now you can create a chat assistant. You can plug it into your emails to automatically reply to emails. You can use the API to do completions and process files for you, to review data for you, to analyze your Excel sheets. And now you also have a voice API. So if you wanted to, you can use OpenAI for your ecosystem of AI integrations and all of your AI needs. So while it might be a little bit expensive and maybe not as usable or easy to use as the different AI tools, it's kind of looking like the trend is going towards OpenAI creating a full service experience where people that know how to code and also don't know how to code can really integrate AI into their workflows. So this is pretty exciting, and yeah, it's a little bit expensive now, but I think it's going to come down in the near future. Now, the final thing I want to point out is on that demo call, pretty much as soon as I finished speaking, I already had a response coming back to me from the API. And that's thanks to the Realtime API, letting you create a persistent WebSocket connection. So for real-time conversations, for real-time communication like live chat or now this voice API, the WebSocket is the main mechanism that lets you communicate instantaneously. So let's say a regular API call where you're speaking with the OpenAI assistant, it's like you have to send the postcard to communicate. I've got to send the postcard to you, you've got to wait for it to be delivered to you, then you get it, then you write your next response, and then you send the postcard to me, and I've got to wait for that delivery time. The WebSocket removes that delivery time by pretty much creating a portal between you and me, where as soon as I send a message, you immediately get it. There's no lag, there's no downtime. So yeah, that's how this communication is real time by using this WebSocket. And another thing to point out is that you can still do function calling with this API. Now, coming back to that demo that I just showed you guys, I created a Github repo where I'm going to show you exactly how to download that into Replit, how to deploy it, what kind of settings you need to change. It'll probably take you like 5 minutes total. And then I'm going to show you how to create your Twilio account and actually add a number and then like everything that you need to do to plug those two things in together so that within the next 5-10 minutes, you can actually go on your phone and then call your own AI assistant. So watch this entire video, that's all going to be explained, but just quickly, I'm going to show you what the functionality is of the assistant that I created. So as you saw before, it actually takes inbound phone calls. So we use Twilio, we generate a phone number, we plug that phone number into the API, and then you can call it on a phone and then speak with it. Then I've prompted it to capture some customer information, so customer name, the availability, and then whatever service work the customer needed. And as you can imagine, using that prompt, you can adjust this to whatever your business needs are as well. And then one thing that I haven't shown you yet is that I actually plugged it into make.com so that I can get that data from the phone call and then do whatever else I want with it. Like in make.com, you already know you can plug into like any of your other tools, do absolutely anything you want, create different flows, automations. So I'm basically sending those details to make.com. And for my example, I'm just updating a Google Sheet. And that's what I've got here. I've just got 3 columns. I've got name, I've got the availability, and then I've got some notes as well. And yeah, this was that most recent one. So I wanted to book an appointment for 1 p.m. on Tuesday to have a regular service and then check my breaks. And as you can imagine, you're going to have a lot of different use cases. As long as you can get that data into Make, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. And then finally, we have session management. So this can handle simultaneous phone calls all at the same time. I think there are some limitations in the API at this stage where, if I'm not mistaken, the max phone call length you're allowed to have is 10 minutes or 15 minutes, which I don't think you kind of cross over that. But then also, if you're on like a tier 1, tier 2 account, there's like a limitation on how many phone calls you can have at one time. And then the API has rate limits anyway. But anyway, this is probably going to get outgrown really quickly. So if you're watching this video, you might have a couple of these speed bumps to start with, but then moving forward, it's going to get, you're going to get a lot more breathing room. But really, I don't think you're going to run into any problems. But yeah, this session management lets you handle multiple phone calls at one time. So if I have a phone call on Twilio and then 3 other people having the same phone call, the information on that Replit server is not going to get mumbled up, jumbled up. So my name isn't going to be used for that third person, and that third person's car service isn't going to get muddied up with whatever I need to get done. It's just going to be all separate calls and separate sessions. So yeah, this is actually, it doesn't seem like much, but this is actually really cool to have, especially if you want to launch this starting today for your business. Now we're going to be using Replit to basically take that GitHub repo, we're going to run it on Replit, and then we're going to be, basically all the calls are going to be routed to Replit. And finally, I have the GitHub repo here, which we're going to be going through in a second. I'll also explain all the code. And once again, I'm going to show you how to plug it into Twilio. So it's going to be super easy. Actually, the Twilio side of things is going to be very, very easy. Even if you have just a brand new account, you can get this working straight away. Okay, so just quickly, how did I build this out? So I first found Twilio's YouTube video like the day of or the day after the Realtime API was introduced. And Twilio created a repo to write this in JavaScript. So they deployed this using Node, and which is my favorite language. You can also, I think they've got a repo for Python as well, but you can watch this video where they explain the code in detail, just breaking it down step by step, like what each part of the code means. I'll also explain in my code, which was built off this code, what each of the parts means. But if you do want more details, come to here for sure. The only thing is that the guy that's in this video made the code on his personal computer. He didn't deploy it on a server like Replit. Now they have an extra step in here where they have to expose their code to the internet so that the Twilio number can target that specific code. And that's why they're using this thing called ngrok. But we're not using this because on Replit, we're going to expose it directly to the internet. So we're actually saving a couple steps here as well. So this is Twilio's GitHub repo. Just want to give credit where credit's due because this is, again, what I started with and what I actually used to build out my code. So yeah, definitely jump into here, check this out. This is the main file, the index.js, and you can come into here and look at the code and you basically see that my code is very, very similar to this, just has a few different things. And then my repo is over here. I basically used a fictional automotive store, so Bart's Automotive, and I made a couple different features into here to basically capture the user's information and send it across to make.com. There are some key differences between this code and the Twilio code, but it's just like upgrades, things that I wanted to increase the functionality. Okay, so how do we actually launch this in Replit? Okay, so over in Replit, I'm already logged in, but if you don't have an account already, just sign up. You can sign up for free. Otherwise, it's $20 a month. That's the plan that I'm on for Replit Core. And I've got heaps of things running in Replit, heaps of things that I deployed. I build all of my clients' projects in here. And whenever I build out code that has to be available online, then I only use Replit. This is like the very beginner friendly way to serve code online. Okay, so I'm gonna go to create a REPL, and then I'm gonna go to import from GitHub, and then I'm gonna go to from URL. So you guys will be doing this as well. You go to from URL, and then we're gonna click on this green button, and we're just gonna copy this button here. So let's click this, copy to clipboard, back in Replit, let's paste it in, and let's go import from GitHub. All right, so when you import from GitHub, pretty much all the code that I have on GitHub is gonna be transferred across into this REPL. So let's go confirm and close. And as you can see on the left-hand side, all the files that I had in the GitHub are now transferred across into this Replit. So all I had to do was pretty much just press that confirm button, and now I'm like 95% complete. There's just a few more things I need to do to get this up and running. And before I do that, I'm just gonna pull this bottom screen and bring it to the right-hand side. So now my interface is a little bit cleaner. And I'm gonna go back to GitHub. So scrolling down, over here I've got a command to run, and that's npm install. And that's going to install all the dependencies that I need for my app in order for it to run. So I'm going to click here and copy this command. And back in rep, I'm going to go across to shell, and I'm going to paste this command in and hit enter. Awesome, now I have all the dependencies installed. So what is a dependency? Now, if I go to this package.json file, I've already listed out all the dependencies that we need for this app over here. So that's why when we ran this command, it looked into this file and it basically installed all this stuff so that we can actually run this app. Now, the last thing that we need to do is create a new file which is going to be .env. And in the .env file, we're going to put our OpenAI API key. So I'm going to go back to index.js, and our variable for the OpenAI API key is this. So back in the .env file, I'm going to paste it into here and put an equal sign. And now in my OpenAI account, I'm going to go to dashboard, and then I'm going to go to keys, and I'm going to create a new secret key. I'm going to call this test-bart create secret key. Copy this, hit done, and now I'm going to paste it into here. All right, awesome. And I'm going to hit run. Perfect. This is the message that we're expecting to be printed when this is available online. And this is the URL that we're going to be using right now in this test development. And I'm going to show you how to actually deploy this more permanently later on. But for testing, we'll be using this URL. So it's already exposed to the internet. And yeah, pretty much everything here is done for us. I will say that right now in this index file, we are using my preset stuff, so Bart's Automotive and some other things that I've configured here, but we're just gonna set up Twilio now, test out the phone call, and I'm gonna come back into here and explain the code for you. So this is Twilio's website. And again, we're gonna be using Twilio to generate that phone number for us so that we can then plug into our AI agent. So go to twilio.com and then create an account by clicking start for free, but I'm just gonna click login because I already have an account. Now, if you create an account for free with Twilio, you already get a phone number, and I'm pretty sure it's a US based phone number. And even though I'm in Australia, I actually had a US phone number as well. So yeah, I think the default is gonna be a US phone number, and you get like 15 bucks of credit. So you can actually run this demo by using a free account. You don't have to pay for anything just yet, but you cannot add a new number until you upgrade your account. And I think you have to deposit like 20 bucks. So I've actually turned off my US number and I've upgraded my account because I wanted to get a couple numbers from my AU. So then click on your region where your phone number is, then click on phone numbers, then click on manage, and then click on active numbers. Mine's already popped down, so I'm gonna click on active numbers. So your default phone number, if you just created an account, should have the voice capability. So you'll be able to see this little phone icon. If you don't see the phone icon for whatever reason, you might have to like delete that number or repurchase a new number, but we need this in order to actually make this work. And yeah, I'm pretty sure by default, you should already have this in your free number. So then all we need to do is click into one of these numbers. So I'm gonna click on this top one, and then you see a page like this, and then click into configuration. So again, this is my AU number. I think the US number had different options here. The names were slightly different, but they do the exact same thing. Just make sure you choose the one that has webhook, and I've got webhook over here. So what we're pretty much doing is saying for this phone number, when someone calls that phone number, so when a call comes in, we want to make a webhook request across to a certain URL with a certain HTTP type. So this is like making an API call. And we're making this API call to our Replit server so that we can communicate with our real-time API. So all we need to do is go back to Replit, and then over here, we copy this URL, then back in Twilio, let's paste it into this first option here. Again, this is for when a call comes in. Now we're not done just yet. We still need to put something at the very end of here. So back in Replit, now go to your index.js file if you're not already there, and then scroll down a little bit until you see this. So incoming-call. So just to highlight it like this so you can see it. And we need to append this incoming-call on the end of this URL that we put into Twilio. So I'm just going to copy incoming-call. Back in Twilio, I'm going to paste it in here. So why do we have to append this little bit at the end? So this URL is actually just targeting this app in general. And over here, this /incoming-call is basically saying, hey, Twilio, when you're sending your phone call to us, yes, we're sending it to this app, but then we want to plonk it into here. So from this code onwards, we want to insert your Twilio call that you're forwarding and then do everything else with it. And again, I'm going to explain the code in a second, but that's why we're appending this to the end of the URL in Twilio. So now that we're done, we have our URL with the incoming call appended to the end. Make sure that we're using the post request. And now let's hit save configuration. Awesome, now that everything is saved, let's go back into Replit. And we've already got this deployed. So again, I actually just hit run here. But if you haven't hit run, I'm just going to stop this to show you. Just hit run here. And now we've got this running and it's available to access by the internet. So I want to make a phone call and we're going to be looking at these logs over here. So let me just make this bigger. And then we're going to be getting logs of whatever's happening in the code. So the first line should say incoming phone call. And then we'll probably get some different logs into here, like the transcript of the conversation as it's happening and a bunch of different stuff. So let's actually give this a try. Okay, so let's actually give this number a call. So I'm just going to plug this in directly into my phone and let's give it a call.
Hi, you have called Bart's Automotive Center. How can we help?
Hi, I want to schedule a service for my car.
Of course, I'd be happy to help with that. May I have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Bartholomew.
Thank you, Bartholomew. What type of service or work does your car need?
I want a full service, and I also want a car wash.
And you also want a R. Sorry, could you please complete your request? It seems like it got cut off.
I would like my car to be washed as well.
Absolutely, we can add a car wash along with the full service. When would you be available to bring in your car?
How about next Thursday at 11 a.m.?
Next Thursday at 11 a.m. works perfectly. We'll see you then, Bartholomew. If you have any other requests or need to reschedule, feel free to let us know.
All right, see ya. So as you can see, we've got a bunch of logs here. For example, this is an agent response. This is exactly what the AI agent said to us. This little bit here, which is session underscore, this is the unique session ID variable, which lets us have simultaneous phone calls without them colliding. So if I keep scrolling up a little bit more, then I've got the user message, which is what I said, Thursday at 11. So how about Thursday at 11? And we're essentially creating this transcript of the conversation so that at the very end, I've got the entire convo in text, and I can plug it into a completions API call and parse it, get different data from it, and then send it across to make.com. But as you can see, this phone call was successful. The only thing that we didn't do was we had an invalid URL for our webhook. So if I scroll up here, I actually didn't put my make.com URL into here. So across in make.com, I've just got a webhook and then a Google Sheets integration. So I'm going to click on this and I'm going to copy this address to clipboard, and then back in Replit, I'm going to paste it into here between the quotation marks. And now since I've made this change, I actually have to resave this. So I'm just going to hit stop. And if I hit run, now the server is live again with the updated URL. So I'm going to test this out in a second, but let me just go over the code and just explain what's happening. So let's expand this out a little bit more. So again, watch the Twilio video because it will give you a good idea of all the nuances of this code. But at high level, what we're doing is we're setting the system message for the AI receptionist. So as you can see, I basically said, hey, you're an automotive AI assistant. Just have a nice conversation with the user, get some of their information like their name, their availability, and what kind of service work they want to have. Ask one question at a time. And then over here, I'm setting the actual voice that we're going to be using for this. So we've got the alloy selected. And if you go to your OpenAI account and click Playground, then click Realtime, you can see there's a couple of voice options here. So if you drop down, there's a few. There's Alloy, Eco, and Shimmer. And you would just plug them directly into here. So you would just choose your favorite one, and it's got to be in lowercase. And then for my use case, I just insert my webhook URL. That's going to go across to make.com. And over here is where we're logging all the events of the phone call. So across in your OpenAI account, if you go to API reference and you go to client events and then to server events, these are all the events that happen on the actual phone call that we're having with our assistant. So each of these little events will basically contain some different information. And this is what I use to obtain not only the user transcript, but also the agent transcript. And again, for my use case, I wanted the entire transcript in text so that I can actually use that and send across to Make and get different details and do different things. So then over here, we actually have our first message that we're sending across to the user, which is, hey, the phone call is successful. How can we help you? So this is like the initial message that we send to the user when they make a phone call. And then as you saw, I said something like, hey, I want to make an appointment. And again, that's that first message coming into that incoming-call endpoint that we appended into Twilio. And then scrolling down a little bit more, from here, it gets a little bit more complex, but we're basically setting up the main configuration for the AI agent. This stuff over here, the session variables, you'll remember from this over here. So this session.update event. This is basically what we're doing here. Ours is a little bit shorter because we don't have tools in here. And actually, one thing that I introduced into this code that wasn't in Twilio's code was this input_audio_transcription. So we're using the Whisper-1 model to transcribe the conversation as it's happening live. So the Twilio GitHub code didn't have this. It actually took me a little while to figure out why I wasn't able to get the transcript of the audio. You need to enable this to be true. So you can use the Whisper model to transcribe your audio into text. And that's what we're doing here. We're using the Whisper model. But we are setting our API key. We're setting the realtime equals v1 parameter here as well. This is our actual realtime API WebSocket address. And over here, this is where I introduced some transcript handling. So like we saw in the console before, we had user message and agent message. That's thanks to this additional code where we're taking the actual audio, we're converting it into the text transcript, and then we're going to be using that at the very end once the phone call is ended to send that across to make.com. So scrolling down a little bit more. So over here, I'm actually making a ChatGPT completions API call. I'm using the structured outputs schema, and I'm setting the system message to be, hey, extract the name, availability, and special notes from the transcript that we're going to provide to you. For the user message, we're actually sending the transcript itself. So that's all the messages that I'm saying, all the AI agent messages, all that is inside this transcript variable. And then we create this schema that basically creates a structured response back to us that contains the customer name, the customer availability, and any special notes. And these are all just strings, so they're just like straight text. Then scrolling down a little bit more, over here we're creating that webhook across to make.com. So we're taking the webhook URL that we set at the very top of this code. We're making a post request and we're sending the stringified payload. So that payload is essentially these three variables. And then those variables are going to be landing right into this webhook here. And then after they land, I have a Google Sheets module, which basically takes the variables directly out of here and places them into the name, availability, and notes sections of my Google Sheets, which is over here, name, availability, and notes. So I'm going to hit run once, and then I'm going to quickly make another phone call, and I'm going to show you exactly how the variables show up into here and here. All right, so I just finished my call, and then over here we have our inbound payload of customer name, availability, and special notes. This time I want a full engine rebuild and then a turbo upgrade package. And then over here, we've basically inserted those variables into our sheet. And now looking at our sheet, I'm booked in for next Tuesday at 1 p.m. again for that full engine rebuild with the twin turbo upgrade. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go for. All right, so now that we've actually gone through the code and seen how it works, you can paste this into ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to make a couple of edits. You know, I want to change the system message or, you know, the webhook URL, or actually I want to send it to a completely different program. So you can plug it into ChatGPT. It'll be super helpful for you, and you can put the code back into here. But I'm going to show you now how to deploy this so you can actually have this running all the time. Because if I close this web page, because I've just clicked this is in testing mode. It's not actually in live deployment mode. So to deploy this, I'm going to click on this button here. Let's actually scroll this down. And I'm going to go set up deployment. I'm going to use the default settings. I'm going to go approve and configure and then deploy. And now Replit's going to set up the entire server for us, everything in the back end. Like as you saw, we just had to take this code in from GitHub. We had to add in our secret key, so the API key, into this .env file. We had to insert our webhook URL, but that was pretty much it. Like this code was super easy, very quick to start with. And now we're actually nearly done deploying anyway. So this whole process will take you maybe 5-10 minutes. Okay, now we're deployed. That's awesome. So we have to take this URL now, and actually this URL replaces this URL that we had here. So we're just gonna turn this off, go back to deployments, and again, we're gonna copy this URL. So I'm just gonna copy this. It's gonna open up a brand new web page, but we're just gonna copy this anyway. And back in Twilio, I'm going to backspace this initial stuff because I still need to have this appended at the end, and I'm going to paste it into here. Now, quick note, if you're ever copying the code, you just have to have 1/ here. Sometimes you copy it and it'll have 2 /. Just make sure you only have 1 /. Then you're going to save this configuration. And now that it's saved, let's actually give this a call to make sure that it works. So I'm going to call again.
You have called Bart.
Awesome. And now we're using the live deployment version of our AI agent that's going to take inbound phone calls and going to book people in. So I built this out pretty quickly. I wanted to get a video out on this to just show the final connection. It took a little bit of time for me to figure it out initially, so I thought I'd just save maybe someone else some time on them building this out for the first time by giving some more refined code above what was available online. And yeah, the next steps here would be to introduce some kind of RAG on a knowledge base and to even make some function calls. Because right now I'm not making any function calls. I haven't plugged into a calendar to check if the time that I'm requesting is actually available. I don't really have any mechanism for answering any simple FAQ questions. So yeah, as a V2, I might build this kind of stuff out. So if you guys want to see some more videos on me building out an AI voice agent using the Realtime API, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, then comment below that you just want to see more of this kind of stuff. All right, guys, thank you very much and enjoy building your AI voice agents. See ya.